This
Started.
conference will now be recorded.
All right, we do have a handful of people in the room as well as online. I would like to just go around and do some introductions so we know who's here. So we'll start with the room first. If this is your first time at the Speed EAT, my name is Cynthia Spriggs. I run the pedestrian, bicycle, speed, and aggressive programs for the Highway Safety Office. And this is our Speed EAT, the first one of 2024. So thank you all for coming. Rachel, you want to go ahead?
Hi, I am Rachel Andrus. I am the Content and Engagement Specialist for the Highway Safety Office. I handle our social media.
Frank?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Frank Enko. I'm from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Region 3, and speed is one of my program areas that I'm responsible for at the regional office.
I'm Tim Richards. I'm with the Maryland Highway Safety Office. I'm the section manager for safety programs.
Eileen Singleton with the Baltimore Metropolitan Council, and I do my relation to this is traffic incident management.
I'm Belinda Burrier. I'm from Frederick County, Maryland, and represent agriculture in the highway safeties.
All right, we'll start online. I'll go down the list as I see it. Doug?
Good morning, everyone. You can hear me now?
We can now. Thank you for
Oh,
being
good. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Doug Mowbray. I work for the Highway Safety Office, and I'm the data manager.
Becca?
Hi, Becca Dreyer. I'm the program manager at the Crash Center for Research and Education.
Brandon?
Hey, how's it going? Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Wright. I'm an officer with the City of Glen Arden Police Department in Prince George's County. I just became a traffic safety specialist, so this is my first EAT meeting, and I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. Thank you. Ian?
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name's Ian Turner, and I am an application developer with the National Study Center.
John Becker? John saying you can go ahead. Oh, there you go, John. John Becker.
Hi, John Becker with Safe Roads Maryland, living here in downtown Rockville, Maryland.
Thanks for joining, John. John Sang?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I am Chair of Safe Roads Maryland. Glad to be here and be hopefully part of the solution.
Thanks, John. Joe? Joe Mogus?
Good morning, everyone. Joe Mogus, SHA Senior Safety Officer.
Joshua Deans? All right, next we have Komal.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Komal, and I'm a lead research analyst at National Study Center.
Lieutenant Valentine.
Good morning, everybody. Lieutenant Chris Valentine. I'm the commander of the traffic division for the Howard County Police Department.
Michael Barzal.
Good morning, everyone. Michael Barzal, second EAT meeting. I'm with Maryland Transportation Authority Police. I'm assigned to our collision reconstruction unit. I'm just looking forward to learning more in this EAT meeting.
Thanks, Mike Baumgartner.
Hello, I'm Mike Baumgartner. I'm with the Maryland Highway Safety Office, and I also have the motorcycle safety program.
Minsock.
Good morning, everyone. This is Minsook Kim from State Highway Administration from Office of Traffic and Safety.
And Regina. Regina, I see you unmuted, but it's not coming through. So we'll go to Roxanne.
Good morning, Roxanne McKay with the Maryland Transportation Authority. And if anyone knows how to get GoTo to put everything back on one screen, please send me a note because it's in 5 different pieces.
Oh, I wish I could help with that. So if somebody does know, if you could please send Roxanne a message, that would be wonderful. Rich? All right, Rich, we're unable to hear you. I'm going to go to Ron.
Ron Weiss, good morning. Fort Washington, Maryland. I'm a member of the Maryland 210 Traffic Safety Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Roman?
Roman Veselinov, National Study Center, University of Maryland, Baltimore.
Scott? Sean from Washington College?
Yeah, Scott Keller, LEL from the Eastern region. Sorry about that. I was having trouble with my mute.
That's all right, Scott. Thank you very much. Sean?
Hi, good morning, all. This is Sean Lim from the Washington College GAS program.
And Steve?
Steve Retzebek. I'm at LEL for the Northern region, which is Cecil, all the way down to Anne Arundel County.
All right, and I think Candice, I saw you hop on there as well.
Good morning. This is Candice from MDOT TSO.
Thanks. And if there's anybody else I missed, please feel free to unmute and say good morning.
Cindy,
All right.
it's Regina. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Wonderful.
Okay, yeah, my computer was getting used to this format. Good morning, everyone. Regina Ali with AAA. I'm the Public and Government Affairs Manager for Maryland and Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Regina. Yeah, we had some issues this morning with our computer too. So each platform brings its own unique challenges, issues, fun stuff. So thank you all for joining. This may be our largest Speed EAT since I have been here. So I truly appreciate everyone who is returning and especially all those that are new. So with that, I'm actually going to pass it over to Rachel for our communications update.
First.
You get to be first.
Woohoo. All right. We are going to see if this works. I really love GoTo, but I have some videos to share today, and we're going to cross our fingers and hope for the best. All right.
Oh, the plus is we can see it, so that's
Plus
always a good
we
start.
can see it, so we're off to a good start. All right. So we just wrapped up our. We just wrapped up our spring speed and aggressive driving campaign. This campaign ran from March 14th through April 30th. It did feature some new campaign material. We switched over from our prior material, which was more of a video game focus, to some material we hoped would resonate a little better with our audience. We had 2 different styles in the market. We had a speeding isn't quicker when you crash, and then you won't get there faster like this, which featured people being pulled over by law enforcement. We did get a lot of feedback and engagement on our social media posts, particularly about the version where it's featured having the driver being pulled over by law enforcement. Not all of that engagement was positive, but as we like to say, all engagement is good engagement. So here we are. We're going to take some of that feedback and try to make some modifications for the next go round. We did also have an audio portion. I'm going to try to play it. We'll see if it works.
Running late? Don't speed. You can get pulled over, cause injuries, or worse. Drive safely and follow the speed limit. Be the driver who saves lives. Brought to you by the Maryland Department of Transportation.
So I'm batting 1,000 this morning. That audio spot ran on iHeartRadio. We also had out-of-home billboards across the state, as well as paid social media on Facebook and Twitter. And there was also a video version of this that ran on YouTube. Our summer campaign is going to be along these same lines. So it's going to run from July 15th through the 31st, which overlaps with NHTSA's Speeding Catches Up With You campaign. We're going to feature the same type of advertisements, the same type of collateral that we used for the spring aggressive driving campaign. And that one is going to also utilize video advertisements on YouTube and will use social media, paid social media through Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat.
Running late? Don't speed.
Okay. Our Orioles partnership continues this year. We started this last year and we had pretty good success with it. So we have continued and expanded that for this baseball season. So we are using a variety of different campaigns with the Orioles, but that does include speed and aggressive driving. So you can see the GIF that's playing on the screen. That's going to be part of our club level LED signage at the ballpark. We are also going to have advertisements behind home plate, which are going to feature the Move Over, Slow Down campaign, which we decided was close enough to speed and aggressive driving that we would include it here. These advertisements that you see on the screen right now have not received final approval, so they may change before they end up in the ballpark, but I wanted to show them to you guys here today. And then along the same semi-speed and aggressive driving campaign focus, we have been heavily invested in a work zone safety campaign that really has been a focus of ours for a long time, but received much more focus after the crash on 695 last year, when it became a big thing with the governor's office, and the lieutenant governor in particular has really focused very passionately on this. The work zone safety campaign, we decided to take a slightly different approach. So we have recruited some, I guess, public talent to help us increase our public safety reach. So I'm going to show a couple of these to you. You may recognize some faces.
Hey, I'm Cal Ripken.
And I'm Adley Rutschman.
We know a thing or two about looking out for our teammates on the field. And just like in baseball, we need to look out for one another on the road.
That includes our roadside workers and first responders who dedicate themselves to keeping our highways safe.
Every day they face risks to keep the roads running smoothly. So let's do our part to make sure we're all driving safely.
Slow down, pay attention, and give workers the space that they need.
As Marylanders, we rely on our roads to get us to where we need to go. But the roadside workers who maintain these roads, they rely on us to stay safe on the job. Stay alert, be smart. Next time you see road work ahead, take the time to slow down, move over, and pay attention. It is something we can all do. Be the driver who protects roadside workers.
So those are only two of the videos that we have available. We have videos that feature only Cal and only Adley, as well as the video from Tori. We also have videos from the Lieutenant Governor and Governor Moore, as well as we've started getting videos in from several local news personalities, and we are working on some more specifically local athletes, college athletes and coaches. So we are really excited about this campaign. We're hoping that the public figures bring a broader focus to work zone safety and trying to get our drivers to slow down on the roads. We're excited to see where it goes. So if you guys can share those, help us get that message out, we would really appreciate it. And that's all I've got for you.
And just, it'll help keep the messages slow down. Like the more we can get that out there, I think the better for us as general transportation, but of course, keeping those vital members of our community that are enhancing the roads or going out to the emergencies that happen on our roads safe. Is very crucial. Does anybody have any questions for Rachel? All right, I am seeing none. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. For those, for those who have been with us for our EATs, our last speed EAT was in November. And if you recall, when I was talking about that one in November, we were talking about a combined emphasis area team that was held in March over at TSO headquarters. We had quite a group, 80-ish members from pedestrian bicycle emphasis area team, speed area team, data from occupant protection, distracted, impaired, all together in the room. I'm going to share this link with you. If I get a chance, I'll drop it in the chat. But Tim did a wonderful job compiling all the stuff. I mean, just a huge thanks to Tim for really talking to the EAT managers, getting this thought that we had and putting it into, and all the hard work that went behind the scenes. But with all this, he compiled all the information, the presentations, worked with Rachel to get it on the website. So I will share this link with everybody so that those who were not there can look at some of the information that came out, the morning presentations. So the day was kind of broken down into like a morning with some presentations, kind of an SHSP introduction, talking about the development that will begin at the beginning of next year, really kind of the end of this year. The safe system approach, a little bit of our public participation and engagement. Then we had our emphasis area roundups, which all of the emphasis area team leaders did a brief on what's been going on in their emphasis areas. All of those had PowerPoints, which is in that link that you have, so you'll be able to see those. We did a quick lunch breakout, and I say quick because it was kind of like a networking lunch. We did that kind of intentionally so people could move around the room. Then we broke into 4 different groups. It didn't mean just because you were in law enforcement, you had to go to enforcement, or just because you were an engineer or infrastructure, you had to go to engineering. And we did, I think, have a really good variety in all of the different breakout groups. So we had the education, we had the enforcement, we had data, and we had engineering. Out of those 4 groups, the leaders of the sessions all compiled notes. And so through the notes, I am going to ask for a little bit of homework to look over the notes and give your thoughts on the workshop report outs. If there's things that you would like to see included in our speed EAT, or if there's things that you're like, nope, this doesn't really jive with our EAT. I wanted to bring it to the group as a whole because I do have some thoughts. Some of the thoughts that I had, one of the big things we see is recurring was in person or hybrid or virtual altogether. Here's a kind of snapshot though. Our next EAT will be in person. At this point, we're not going to do a hybrid. I want to really focus on in person. The PBEAT has now been in person for 1 year, and we've really seen some very good discussions that have occurred within those groups to the point where our agendas are kind of a loose guide. We've had a lot of stuff that's had, so I'm going to try that with speed. I understand that we do have a little bit more of a different dynamic group, and I know with our law enforcement partners and those who have to travel, there are some issues with maybe getting to some of the meetings. So that is something if you really want to join, but there's something particular that you're unable to make it once it goes to in person, reach out to me and we'll see what we can do. So I want to make it as fair for all, but I really want the in-person conversations. And one thing we've had really a lot with especially PBEAT, and that's my go-to to talk about because I run both of those. I can't speak for the other EATs, but we have had a lot of sidebar conversations that happened after the meeting. I think our last meeting was over at about 12:30, and there were a couple of us that didn't leave until 2:30. So there was a lot of conversation that was drilled up. Obviously, that's not going to happen every time. That was a little bit of a kind of guided towards certain conversations. But some of the other things, like I know I've brought our tracker up in the past, but did you know that we had one that seemed to be in the group I had? There were some people that didn't know that we had a tracker. Our tracker has action steps and goals and things we want to accomplish. So one of the thoughts was, if we have a tracker or some way to get these action steps out, do we need to start sharing them? Do we need to look at participation through the whole EAT to plan the agenda? All that stuff working together. Cross communication, that was something else that came up. A lot of people are interested in attending all of the EATs, but they don't have time to cover them all. So maybe if we do some cross communication, which is something I'm working with the other program managers on. So I will, if I don't drop the link in the chat, I will include this in the email post meeting that will have not only the recording, but all of the presentations today, as well as this link. And I just ask that you review some of this stuff. If there's anything that you really liked from it, please let me know, and we'll continue to hopefully boost the EATs and really make an impact and create some true change. So I'll open it up to anybody who was there that may want to comment, or if anybody has any questions. And you guys, if you have a question or if you want to comment, go ahead and you can unmute.
I'll just say I think it was a great day. I like the structure of the whole meeting, and that we're all together in the beginning, and then it was easy to float between the breakout sessions because they were all pretty much in the same room but partitioned off with fake walls. So I thought it was good to come back together. If that's something you guys consider doing again in the future, I thought it went really well.
Yeah, we've talked about potentially doing that again, making it a part of, maybe the first quarter, but we're still trying to figure out exactly where to go with that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a ton of work on y'all's part, and especially to bring it back together at the end with all the notes and the conclusions and stuff. So yeah, you don't want to do it too often, but it was a good mix of people.
Thanks, Cindy. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one unmuting, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Doug and Washington College for some Raven updates and some other just kind of data related stuff. Doug, all yours.
All right, thank you everyone. Let me pull up my slides here. Why is that not sharing? All right, can you see the PowerPoint?
Presentation mode.
Yes.
We can, it's not in presentation. There we go. Now we've got it in presentation mode.
All right, there might be a slight delay. Let me turn off my camera just while I'm talking.
There is a slight delay. I noticed it with Rachel as well.
Okay. All right. I'll try to work that in. All right. So good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Doug Mowbray. I'm with the Maryland Highway Safety Office, and I manage our data program. So today I'm just going to talk about some updates that we've had regarding crash data since we last met last year. So a lot of great progression that's been made, especially with the Maryland State Police launching an update to their automated crash reporting system, or ACRS, in January of this year. So it's kind of gotten the simple moniker of ACRS 2.0 just to distinguish it from the original version of ACRS that was launched in 2015. So this does represent a significant upgrade to how law enforcement are collecting information about crashes on Maryland roadways. The policies and procedures have largely remained the same as far as what crashes get investigated. We are looking at fatal crashes and any crash where an injury is involved. And then there are some property damage only crashes if the vehicle, one or more of the vehicles, is damaged to the extent of needing to be towed away. But that's largely up to local policies in each department. So it's not every crash that happens in the state of Maryland, but it's the majority of the serious crashes. So one of the things that Acres 2.0 has introduced is an upgrade to how the location of the crash is collected. The Maryland State Police worked for a while, almost a year, with the State Highway Administration to incorporate their roadway inventory directly into Acres 2.0. The original iteration of Acres locations were captured, one by an officer selecting a GPS point, and then also having another screen where they selected road information, and those two were not linked. They were separate pieces of information. All that has been merged together, and so far this year we've seen an improvement in the locations for crashes. So each officer needs to pull up that map. You can kind of see on the screen there and choose a point on the map, and we've seen an improvement in the locations for crashes in Acres 2.0 so far. So a lot of other upgrades in Acres 2.0. I won't get into all those today. Really, a lot of us just got access to Acres 2.0 a few weeks ago, which I'll get to in a minute. So we are still exploring it and trying to understand the new format, and I think everybody's going to be doing this. So I know Sean can speak to this a little bit. As we work with the 2024 data, the Highway Safety Office and our partners, if you all are working with it too and have questions, we are definitely can share that with you and work together. So the Maryland State Police have dashboards online for you to access the data. Because of the different formatting between Acres 1 and Acres 2, there's actually two ways to download the crash data. So right now they have a crash data download tool, which features 2019 to 2023. You all have these links after the meeting to explore this on your own. So that tool has been up there since last year. Not much has changed there. The data are still subject to be changed, especially 2023. We're still seeing fatal investigations being finalized at the local level and being updated in the download tool. And then the crash data dashboard, which was just launched 2 weeks ago by the Maryland State Police, which includes 2024 up until the present day. So both tools are updated every morning. And of course, we have a link there to the fatal crash dashboard. So just looking at a screenshot here of Acres 1.0, nothing changed here. Again, years available are 2019 and 2023. These are only approved reports that'll matter in a minute when I talk about the fatal crash dashboard. It is updated every morning. The data are subject to change. So if you're downloading these and you're running some studies, you might want to go back and check to see if the data have changed. Now, mostly it's just going to be the more recent year of 2023 that's changing. I think the previous years are pretty much locked in, but there is no policy or procedure that says an officer cannot reopen an Acres report even from a few years ago and resubmit it. So just keep that in mind as you're using that data. The next would be the new data download dashboard for Acres 2.0, which includes the years only 2024 and going forward. Same procedures here as with the Acres 1.0. The data will change. It does change every morning. There is a video tutorial. If you see up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a big eye. If you click on that, it'll actually open up a video. And the Maryland State Police it's about 2.5 minutes. So I definitely encourage you to watch that so you understand how to use this tool. It's a dashboard interface, which is a little bit different than the 1.0. So you can actually do some basic aggregations and statistical analysis right here on screen without downloading the data. So if you go to the tool, I encourage you to explore it. On the left, you can see there are filters. You can filter by date, crash severity. If you click on type of crash, there's a couple of different areas. You can just look at work zone crashes, and you can filter by roadway. So, and all that will be displayed on the screen. So that is a way to just kind of look at some rudimentary statistics from some of our more frequently requested areas for crashes. And this is going to be helpful for those who don't have the tools to download the data and then join the tables and do that type of analytical work. Because we had the launch of Acres 2.0 in January, we needed to revisit the fatal crash dashboard. So this is housed on zerodeathsmaryland.gov. So it is developed, again, by the Maryland State Police. It is in Tableau format. I worked with the Maryland State Police the last couple of months to update the dashboard to include the 2024 data. Still, rules apply. It's updated every morning. It has the years 2016 to current. It's only fatal crash reports. And the difference here is it does include open reports and open investigations. So just a count of crashes that are still under investigation. So these are unapproved reports. And you'll see on the dashboard, there are some tables and figures where it'll say not yet reported, or might be some unknown information. That's because those investigations are still being finalized. And there's still no PII or personally identifiable information available in that tool. Before you get into the dashboard, just call your attention to the links that are part of the Zero Deaths website, looking at the data definitions, the FAQs, and a demo video. So again, this will give you some background information on some of the data you will see displayed. We've had to update the definitions, so we'll get that to in a minute. And then FAQs have been updated to include links to the public download tools that Maryland State Police have included. The demo video is the same as was presented last year at the Traffic Safety Summit. So for this group, for this EAT, just call your attention to the speed definition. There's a slight change. In the past, we've relied exclusively on that contributing circumstances field in the crash report. There was 2 codes that we were looking at to determine if a driver was speeding at the time of the crash, and that was exceeded the speed limit or too fast for conditions. In the 2024 ACRS 2.0, exceeded the speed limit is no longer an attribute in the contributing circumstances. So we're just looking at too fast for conditions. I don't have any data on what effect that has had on the statistics yet. That's something we need to look into. But at this point, and this was not the only attribute that was removed from contributing circumstances, that field included, I think, upwards of 30 different circumstances. And we reduced those down to, I think, about a dozen or 15. So about half of the circumstances were eliminated so we can get more accurate information from officers on the crash report. So we're still remains to be seen kind of what effect this has on the analysis. But for those of you who work on pulling the data down and are looking for certain codes and fields related to speed, just note in 2024, exceeded the speed limit is no longer a selection. For aggressive, again, same thing with the removal of exceeding the speed limit. That now comes off of the query for 2024 and going forward. And just to note that we did make an update so that it only, the aggressive driving query includes just 3 of these following behaviors. So all of those behaviors are still there, and we're looking for 3 of those for aggressive driving crashes. So just a snapshot of the fatal crash dashboard. So again, 2024 is available. So, it's updated every morning. Unfortunately, so far this year in 2024, we are seeing fatalities outpace even last year, which was a high watermark for Maryland. So this is definitely something we are concerned about and tracking as we look at the numbers change here on the dashboard. Again, there's another aspect of the dashboard. If you go to the interest areas, you can look specifically at speed-related crashes and also aggressive if you want some more detail on just these. All right, and last thing before I hand it over to Sean from Washington College. Most of you are familiar with the Raven application. If you're not, we've had this online since 2016 and is reaching its end of life cycle. Just the software is now no longer supported, so we needed some major upgrades to Raven, and we're going to take advantage of the data that's available now for the Maryland State Police to upgrade Raven and make these changes. So it has been a tool that you needed a password, login credentials in the past. We are still working on developing a way for people to access the new Raven application. So that's still something that we're working out. So we're going to give you a little preview today, and we are looking for focus group testers to join us to review the new Raven before we're able to make that publicly available. So just a screenshot of kind of like one of the main pages you'll see. The Raven application, all the analysis is going to be trends of crashes, and it's going to be in line with our strategic highway safety plan. So you can see all of our emphasis areas there. So they're going to be individual dashboards, which Sean will show in a minute, for each of our emphasis area teams, plus a couple other categories that get requests pretty often. The data will be sourced from the public download version that we talked about earlier from the Maryland State Police. So it will only include approved reports. We still need to make some decisions about how often Raven will be updated. We might be doing it monthly or quarterly. Since this is meant to be an analysis tool of trends, we're not necessarily looking for this application to be updated every morning and have the most recent data, since it changes frequently. So that's something we're still working out. But we are looking for feedback for our users and what they're looking for, and that will drive some of the additional features that we develop. So at this point, I'm going to leave it there and turn it over to Sean. So let me get out of here and give him the control. Any questions before Sean jumps into his demo? Looks like John Becker, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I do. I got two questions real quick. Well, one question, I guess, encompassing two things. Why was exceeding the speed limit removed from the data, and who made that decision, based on what? And aggressive driving also was removed from the analysis, and who made that decision and why? You can answer it later if you'd like to, but I am just perplexed by that.
No, those are good questions, John. So for aggressive, the query for aggressive driving has not been removed. So we still have a way to determine whether a driver was engaging in aggressive behavior. So it has to be at least 3 of those behaviors selected by the officer in the contributing circumstances field only exceeded the speed limit. It was sort of removed from that list. So we can still query aggressive drivers. For why the exceeded speed limit was removed, for one, we are following NHTSA standards, the Model Minimum Uniform Crash Criteria, actually the 5th edition, which was released back in 2017. At that time, they had some conflicting fields for how to collect this information, and since has been updated in the 6th edition. So they actually are recommending that states have a separate field for speed only. So we're actually looking to adopt that 6th edition with an upgrade to acres in the future. So for now, what we have found in our analysis is that too fast for conditions and exceeded the speed limit were essentially treated the same by officers. So there's a redundancy there. So that's kind of what we were looking at as far as eliminating some of the contributing circumstances, was reducing redundancy and getting the officers to have kind of fewer selections so that we're more accurate, more complete. But how that's going to affect the analysis, I'm not sure. So we'll have to kind of see that. We do continue to include what the speed limit was on the road at the time. So there's some other fields we can look at to kind of do the analysis to compare.
Just real quickly, thank you very much. So it's NHTSA which is driving this because it's a federal program. Is that correct?
I mean, it partially. So they release every 5 years a standard definition. Basically, it's a recommendation that's not required. So it's called the Model Minimum Uniform Crash Criteria, or MUC. And so we look to that as kind of a standard for how we're going to make upgrades to the crash report. But we also have to look at kind of what our needs are in Maryland and see how officers are collecting it, and basically kind of do walk the middle path of seeing how the information is actually being collected, make sure it's accurate and complete versus what some of the recommendations are. So at this point, really it's a matter of working with law enforcement to say, like, if they think that there's speed involved, they have that too fast for conditions to select. Really, the contributing circumstance field is not a required field. Officers can skip it altogether. So we were already seeing inaccurate and incomplete data to begin with. So we were hoping that by reducing the number of contributing circumstances, they would actually fill it out more often and have just a few discrete options that weren't redundant.
All right, well, thank you very much. And Cynthia, I'll follow up with you since you're the lead on this, because I have a lot more issues with this. Thank you very much for your response.
Yeah, no problem. Yep.
That sounds good. And Doug, I'm going to just throw it to Cindy real quick.
I just had a typical silly question for Sean and Doug both, but why is Raven in Commander's colors instead of Raven's colors?
So the color palette that was chosen for Raven, the application, is to match it towards Zero Death's website and not.
Sorry, Cindy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just weird to see Raven and then it's, you know.
All right,
It
Sean.
may change.
I have to tease him. Raven 1.0 started out that way too, and we were guilting him about it, so I just have to teach you a little.
All right, Sean, it's all yours.
Thank you. And Doug, can you provide me access again? I had to restart GoTo. I do apologize. It'll take me a second here, guys. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Thank you, Doug. So good afternoon, all. Let's see. Okay. Perfect. You guys should see the Raven screen. If you don't, just let me know. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for letting me have the time here to talk about the upgrades and updates to the Raven application. As Doug mentioned, during his presentation, we're retiring the old application and we're getting ready for our essentially soft launch of the new Raven application. The application, we've really spent the time on working on various items for it. And a lot of those things that you're going to see today are related to the conversations we've had with people during the first iteration of Raven. And I think that's very important to point out as we build these tools that are going to be used by you as the users of it, these EA teams, but also our various members of each of the groups inside of these committees. So we wanted to pull together a data resource for folks to be able to have a starting point with the data. The data is processed the same as it was in the first iteration of Raven, is taking a look at the jurisdictional levels. But as you'll see here in the application, a lot of things are driven by the user compared to the static pre-processed data sets. We wanted to provide you the tools necessary to be able to take a look at the data, take a look at the regions you're taking a look at, the jurisdictions, and so on and so forth, and start looking at the stories that need to be told in these respected areas. So today, I'll hop into speeding and aggressive. The only thing I do want to note before I do get started here is you may see some things that are broken. You may see things that are maybe mislabeled or misspelled. I do apologize. We are still preparing for launch. We're finishing the application by the end of this week, and we're going through multiple rounds of reviews right now. So if you do see something, definitely message me in the chat and I'll add it to our queue. But we are still processing the application. So it's going to be ready for the Maryland Summit. So for those who are going to be attending the Maryland Summit, please stop by our booth at the Washington College booth to get the full demo of the whole application. And we'll continue working on the process for getting access to the tools that you do see here, as Doug mentioned. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and click on speeding and our head it loaded. The notes that I do have here is that the Raven application is going to be in two parts. One of those parts being the actual dashboard. So everything to the right of this area here will be what is embedded into the Towards Zero Deaths. And that's one of the things that we were just talking about is the color palette. The color palette right now is designed to match the Towards Zero Deaths website, which is the Maryland flag. And the colorization for that. So you'll see that consistency throughout the whole application. So the application from the dashboard, as you see here on where I'm moving the mouse here, if you can't, where it says Raven Speeding Dashboard, all the way to the right will be embedded into the Towards Zero Deaths website. For those who need just kind of more access at once, there'll be availability to be able to take a look at the full suite of the tool. But the goal of the application, like I said, is in two parts, is, adding that resource to the areas throughout the website, the emphasis areas and plus, but also providing that tool and resource back to the user. So as you take a look around the dashboard, some of the things that you'll see is the consistency on KPIs, just having that starting point of the conversation, how many crashes are occurring, the injuries associated with that, and the fatalities, right? So, just right off the bat, just getting some quick information. The data that you do see here is 2018 to 2023, and you'll see that right here in the select date tool. The reason why we're only using up to 2023 at this moment is because of the fact that 2024 was just released, and Doug just showed that on one of his slides. It was released a couple weeks ago. I think April 12th might have been the date, to be exact. So we're in the middle of getting ready to process the 2024 data. The biggest thing with the 2024 data is the data sets are not going to line up any longer. As Doug was just mentioning, some of the fields are going to be taken away as NHTSA has these updates to the Muck standards. Right now we went from Muck 4 to Muck 5. And so, one of the things that we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks here after the May 13th of the Maryland Summit is essentially relining up this data. Once that's ready, we'll have a process in place that will be able to upload these applications on an ongoing basis. So right now, the application features the 2018 to 2023 Maryland State Police Tableau data download tool data. So our team has gone through and processed this information, as you see in the map here. So just kind of looking at the top here, the tool allows us to take a look at ranges of dates by years, by dates, taking a look at the hours of which those crashes occurred, the agencies respected to these areas, the jurisdiction, if we want to take a look at the jurisdiction, the various road types that are indicated on the data set, and then also, was there a fatal, an injury, or just property damage? It gives the user the control of the data as they go through the process. So, there are things around the application, but what I'm going to start talking about is the map. What we've done is we put clusters on a map to allow better load time. And so for you to be able to start seeing the actual individual crashes, we just ask you to start zooming in. You can use, your regular zoom in feature, or use your mouse if you have the pinwheel. And so as I go deeper and deeper into the data, the KPIs change, and that's important for the user to know. It is reactive to the data that you do see on the map here. And if I go through and take a look at kind of toggling some of like the pie charts, it tells me a deeper dive of the story that's being told here. And you see that we do see some things that are changing. So if I go to lighting and I just want to take a look at daylight, or if I just want to take a look at dark lights on, those are the things that I can start communicating with the data and start narrowing down those things. So as I take a look at the deeper and I go further down and I take a look, one of the things that I can do here is just take a look at the report. It gives me the report ID and the associated information on that. And one of the things that is something you didn't see in the past Raven application is the relationship to those additional tables. They do take a couple seconds to load here, and we're still finalizing some things with the load times. But it loads in the additional information that you may need to know about that crash that occurred. So it communicates a little bit deeper dive on the data sets that you are seeing. You can see that the circumstances, we can see all the circumstances are related. This one was too fast for conditions, and some additional ones that got flagged inside of our speeding area. So with that being said, there also is crash binning. So this is a way to take a look at the whole state all at once, and you kind of see what's going on in each of the jurisdictions. We know this is based on population density, but we still wanted to provide a way to quickly take a look at what's going on in these regions and start taking a deeper dive in some of these areas and seeing those aggregation counts. In each of the dashboards we do have, I'm just particularly looking at speed for the time being. You will see some information here that talks about the clustering and any other data sets that are associated with this. Things like speeding, we're going to be incorporating things like speed limit signs and those types of things, which we think that are vital to the communication here inside the data sets. So as I continue navigating through, we get to see some of these things where it's like the percentage of crashes that are occurring. So if I continue navigating this, it changes, and I can start narrowing things down. So I can see like 2018 in January, there was 482 crashes. I can just take a look at January at that given time. And if I really wanted just to take a look at January at those marks, I can start talking to the data and start navigating those conversations. So it allows us to take a look at deeper dive into that data. If I just want to take a look at Baltimore County for the months of January between 2018 to 2023, I can do so now. We know that each of you guys, as you guys are going through the services that you guys need, we wanted to provide a tool that satisfied a lot of those needs and continue having those conversations with the data. One of the other things here, and we're finalizing this week, is a way just to narrow down some of those data sets. So going into speeding, if I want to take a look at some of these additional flags, I can pull in speeding. I can figure out, okay, so I can just start talking to the data and applying some of these filters to take a look at different counts as it relates to each of the emphasis areas. As I said, we're still tweaking it. We were working on it right before the call to be able to have a deeper dive into the data. Each of the tool sets allow you to do different things. This allows you to have kind of that view of the data as you're narrowing it down. The analysis tool is to start having a deeper conversation with your data, maybe cross-tabulate your data with maybe speeding and pedestrians, depending on what you're taking a look at. We saw some videos of work zone today, maybe taking a look at speeding and those work zones, or speeding and work zone, or speeding or work zone. So the user has that ability to start taking a look at that. So as you see here, we can take a look at, the time, those by month, I can start separating out things. And then each of these areas will have some information, the queries that were used and the process that we took, and just some of our disclaimer information. And so, the goal of the application here is to be able to have that deeper dive of the data, that now that we have the ability to push these crash points onto a web map that we can share out more easily, that gives that user that ability. One of the things I will note is you can clearly see, from everybody looks at the state of Maryland, we know what it looks like. There are going to be some outliers, and we are cognizant of that. One of the things that we're doing at this point in time is not making any address corrections to these data sets. We want to have a one-to-one relation with the data set. So as you guys are working in your organizations and working with us, and time again, to communicate the resources and needs that you guys have, we're going to help you with that starting point. Not to say that we won't do corrections at a later date, but at the point of the release here for May 13th, we're not going to be doing any address corrections. It's going to be as the data stands inside of the Tableau data download tool. One of the things to note, which I've already taken a look at with the team for the 2024 data, from when we pulled it, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, and started reviewing it, there was only one crash that occurred outside of Maryland, which compared to previous iterations and the work that Maryland State Police has been doing, that's a huge improvement on some of the geospatial issues that we've seen with the data. So, we're going to see these types of outliers in the data set for anything before 2023. And hopefully in the future, when we continue taking a look at the 2024 data, those outliers are going to be reduced to, like we just said, what I just said was 1. So with that being said, definitely see us at the Maryland Summit if you guys are attending. this won't be the last time I present on the application with myself or the team. So we're looking to continue navigating these conversations and continue working with the data users, which everybody around this table and those who are on the call are the data users. We're building these tools and resources with the partnership with Maryland Highway Safety Office with you guys in mind. So with that being said, I'm happy to field questions with Doug to talk about where we're at with the Raven application, any comments, questions, or concerns that you may see.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions for anybody? I did take a look at the 2024 data and the two FASPR conditions, and it looks like it's not affecting our analysis to have removed the exceeded the speed limit, that officers are selecting two FASPR conditions proportional to what we would expect.
On that note, would it also, sorry, on that note, Doug, is it also possible to look and see if citations were issued for exceeding the speed limit on the crash report, or is that, I'm looking at Cynthia too, or is that not always done depending on the severity of the crash at the scene? Is that not to supplement the removal of exceeding speed limit?
It's possible. I don't know if that's in the public download though. And right now, mostly what I've seen is just the citation number is included. So you'd have to link it to, the court records or e-tick. So there's a possibility there, but I think usually, it depends what the officer checked that box in e-ticks, like if it contributed to a crash, and we can do some cross analysis between citations and crashes. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if contributing circumstances wasn't selected, can we look at other sources? Sure. I think when we had a focus group years and years ago with law enforcement, I mean, one of the things back then was contributing circumstances is largely subjective, especially for non-fatal crashes. The officer wasn't on scene, they're not downloading data from the vehicle, so they have to maybe just take witness accounts. And sometimes if they're just not sure, they might just skip that altogether and not, choose a particular contributing factor if they don't have evidence. So there's more evidence for fatal and serious injury crashes. So it's really kind of looking at those and seeing if those are more complete.
Right, thank you. Yeah, it's not, if you can't testify to it, if you have to, then.
Right.
I have a question for Sean. When you were going through the tool and in the bottom, you were looking at speeding crashes, and in the bottom left, a lot of times it said 100% speeding, but then sometimes it said less than that. And I was wondering if they were all supposed to be speeding crashes, why that like lower left box wasn't always 100%.
No, it's a great question. So the point of that is to give the user the ability to see where they're at with the views of the data. So based on this screenshot of the zoomed in of the map, will give you the percentage of how many speeding crashes you're viewing at the time. So that number, as soon as you start zooming in, will always be less than 100. The other one that I toggle to shows the number as it relates to all crashes. So it divides essentially the speeding crashes divided by how many crashes are occurring overall, just to give you a snapshot, like out of all crashes that occurred here, here's the percentage of crashes that you're taking a look at as it relates to speeding to that area.
But I guess when he zoomed in, it's like 15% are outside your view now, so you're only looking at 85%.
Okay. I mean, I thought initially like you were in the speeding dashboard. That's why I thought that all of them would be speeding crashes.
Right, so when he has the state of Maryland, it's 100% because you can see all speeding. When he zoomed into the Baltimore region, then it would go to, 60% crashes because you can't see the other 40% in that zoomed in.
Oh, that's just the
understanding it correct.
That's the percent
of all speeding crashes.
All speeding crashes, okay.
In the view.
Okay.
Is that right, Sean?
Yes, so if you guys see my screen again, these are all the crashes that are occurring, and you'll see 100%. So once I start zooming in, that number should start dropping, which right now it's 98.5 because there's some that are on the outskirts of Maryland. So every time I zoom in, that number is going to continually to drop because at the current state of the screen, it's at 58.7. It gives the user some insight of what they're taking a look at as they're continuing to communicate with the data.
Okay, I was misunderstanding what.
Oh, and it
that
says
was.
tiny, the percent of crashes that are currently drawn compared to all speeding crashes statewide. So it's
Okay.
there, it's just
Okay.
small on the screen.
Thank you.
And it'll probably be a little bit easier to read, because I know I've kind of been in, and right, those tiny things are a little easier when you're the
Yeah.
one who's using the Raven dashboard.
Yes, and hopefully as folks will get access to the applications, as you have questions and it's not clear, please let us know because we will plan on continuing to update these applications to best suit the needs of our users. So if there was something that you guys saw, please definitely reach out to the team and we'll continue working on and making improvements.
Yeah, that's really good feedback, and that's why we want to start with focus group users with the emphasis area teams. So we met a couple of weeks ago with the pedestrian and bicycle emphasis area team. So we've got some focus group folks from there. I see Ron volunteered to join for the speed EAT. So we'll be working through the emphasis area teams over the next couple of months to hone in on some of these features. Because yeah, if you're right, if some of the displays and the visualizations are confusing, that is definitely something we need to know. Our intent here is to make the data that's publicly available from the state police more accessible. So that's our goal. If there's a feature that's not accessible, needs some more explanation, that's the feedback we're looking for over the next couple of months before we can do a full public launch.
All right, any other questions for Doug or Sean? All right, thank you guys. Like I said in PB, from being an original Raven user to this new Raven 2.0, it's very exciting. And thank you guys very much for the hard work. Sean, all of your folks at Washington College, and especially Doug in getting this going. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I do have one guilty plug here just to kind of wrap up the presentation. One of the things that we're going to be doing is our annual Summer Institute. It's going to be held July 31st and August 1st. I will have some advertisement materials at our booth at Maryland Summit, and we'll pass it on to you as well to be able to kind of share to folks. This will be for those who are using the data on a day-to-day basis. We want to work on continuing to share the resources we do have. So those who need help with processing or understanding the crash data, this is definitely going to be the Summer Institute for you. We're also going to be trying to get the census to come out to talk about the importance of utilizing census data and crash data as well. So I will share that information to you, Cynthia, and have you share it out to all your emphasis areas as we're going to be getting ready for that. That is going to be a Maryland Highway Safety Office sponsored event, as it's been for the past couple of years, that will be hosted at Washington College. So more information to come, but I wanted to plug that since I had the second. So thank you guys for the time.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for bringing that up. And yeah, when you get that information to me, I'll be happy to send that out to this emphasis area team, and you guys will be able to reach out to Sean if you're interested. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to talk about legislation next. If you were following the 2024 session, there was a lot that went in. I could sit here and talk all day long, but I wanted to ask our Safe Roads Maryland Coalition to speak because they were down in Annapolis. And then if there's anything else to backfill, I'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to pass the mic over to John Sang and the Maryland Safe Roads Coalition to give us an update and kind of what they saw down in Annapolis this year.
Hey, thank you, Cynthia. My first goal is, yes, to make sure my mic is on. All right, so far so good. Thank you for having us. I'm John Sang, Chair of the Safe Roads Maryland Coalition. We're now in our fourth, more or less, year of formal existence. I'm joined by my colleague, board members John Becker and Ron Weiss. But first, Cynthia, I wanted to thank you, Rachel, Doug, and Sean for all your work and leadership and your presentations that preceded us here. So very confident that we're certainly the constituents of Maryland drivers and families and people in Maryland are in good hands with folks who have your ears to the ground like you guys do. So thank you. We're in terms of Cynthia, the legislative scan here, we're still assembling stuff, but we've done, I think, a decent top line based on outreach to the Montgomery County Office of Intergovernment Relations, Sarah Morningstar there, our friend Wade Holland with Vision Zero in Montgomery County, the review of the Department of Legislative Services report from the 90-day report from the General Assembly. I think Regina Ali may still be on the call, so we got a lot of great input from Regina, and certainly Ron Weiss and John Becker will be contributing too. We're also gathering, John's leading gathering other Vision Zero reports, but Wade did a really good job of streamlining, from a Montgomery County standpoint, but also taking into account the major bills affecting that were passed, and those that didn't pass affecting the state as well as the county. So it's not complete, and we are in no way, shape, or form any kind of authority on government relations or legislative outreach. All we know is what we work on and when we show up in Annapolis every year. So, but the three major categories that we're following here, emulating, are: one, automated enforcement bills; two, speed impaired or reckless driving bills; and then third, pedestrian and bicycle safety bills. So probably the number one bill in terms of automated enforcement that has passed the General Assembly stems from the March 2023 incident where no one on this call doesn't know about this, but where the 6 roadway workers were killed. And so that resulted in this important bill 513, which was introduced in response to the Governor Moore's work group recommendations. I'm not going to talk a ton about that. Many of you, I'm sure, know about it, and you can look it up. But it's clearly an important bill. I think more needs to be done in terms of work zone along Maryland roadways safety. But this is an important start, and I think it's overdue, and unfortunately, it was compelled by this tragedy. But nonetheless, here it is, and it's good. Then I'm going to just keep moving along here in terms of.
I'm going to chime in real quick to touch base on that one. So for those who don't know, just to give you a little bit of snapshot, like John said, this did come out of the work zone group that the Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller oversaw. So the Road Workers Protection Act. So effective July 1st, 2024, violations, the automated enforcement violations in work zones will increase from $40 to $80. Effective January 1st, 2025, the speed violations will be issued based on the excessive speed posted. So you have the 12 to 15 is 60, 16 to 19 is 80, and so on. And it does double if there are workers present. So I think, like John said, that this is a big step forward. And so, we started with work and school zone cameras, so we'll see where that goes from there. But I just wanted to mention that for those who are not aware, like John said, look up House Bill 513, Road Workers Protection Act 2024. Thanks for letting me interject there, John.
Sure, Cynthia, and I appreciate your elaboration there. Safe Roads Maryland was certainly supportive of the bill, but we were not directly lobbying on behalf of that. There were certainly all the muscle that bill needed with the governor and the lieutenant governor's leadership. So to sort of continue along the automated enforcement, for John Becker, for HB 212, that passed authorizing up to 3 vehicle noise monitoring systems per county in Montgomery County and Prince George's. But maybe you could just share a little bit more detail on that if you have that.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the reason why I mentioned when I did my introduction in downtown Rockville, we have a horrendous problem down here. I live right in downtown, across the street from the metro station, and there are other locations throughout Prince George's County and Montgomery County. Basically, what it is technology has advanced to the point now that on the books is a certain decibel level for vehicles to operate with a certain distance of a roadway. And of course, as all of us have experienced one way or another, there is a massive amount of modified exhaust systems on our roads from vehicles, from motorcycles, trucks, and cars, where it's become unbearable. People are just driving by my house. It's like 90 feet away, and it's just morning, noon, evening, 11 o'clock, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. And what this automated system is, it's just like a speed camera, but it's using the noise generated from vehicles, and it operates like a speed camera. It'll note the license plate, the decibel level, and it's an automated reporting system. And I think this is something that's going to change our quality of life throughout the state and across the country. So that bill, thanks to Julie Polakovich Carr and Delegate Lehman, both delegates, made it through the House and the Senate, and hopefully the governor will sign it shortly so we can get these test locations set up in both Montgomery County and Prince George's, and thereafter throughout the state.
Thanks, John. And in case anybody may be wondering what does noise have to do with speed, I think in our non-scientific observations, anecdotal, I've never seen a vehicle, any of the vehicles like John's describing on the roads near where I live or wherever I drive, where a vehicle has this type of illegal exhaust system, and it also happens to be, abiding by the speed limits and not and driving not recklessly. I think it's really the flip side of the same coin. I can be proven wrong, but I think it's simply unlawful behavior on our public roads. Next is under the speed cameras section is HB 761, which began in Montgomery County as MC 624, which would provide school bus violation fine revenue to SHA for bus stop improvements. It's important. The Senate cleaned the bill up with a little language and also felt that forbidding bus stops on 5+ lane roadways unless there's a crossing guard, so things like that. But chipping away at these incremental gains in road safety when it comes to automated enforcement. And then finally, SB 943 authorizing bus lane monitoring cameras across the state of Maryland. The second major category is speed, impairment, and reckless driving bills. And the big win there for this session was closing the loophole, Noah's Law, of course, HB 105, and the companion bill, SB 21, requiring ignition interlocks for impaired drivers given probation before judgment. So no longer will any perpetrator, convicted drunk driver driving under the influence be able to use PBJ to avoid the requirement for ignition interlocks. And so Safe Roads Maryland strongly supported this, along with 14 or 15 other coalition partners, Regina Ali, and maybe some AAA, Mid-Atlantic, maybe some of you on the call also with your organizations got behind this. But finally, after 6, perhaps 7 years, this loophole's been closed, and it's a terrific personal win for my friend Rich Liotta, and will make a huge difference in roadway safety in Maryland. Nearly as dramatic, and it was after 3 years, HB 601 and the companion bill, I think I'm forgetting now what it is. My notes are a little foggy on this, but the speed exhibition driving bill passed. And so Safe Roads Maryland worked extensively with chambers of commerce throughout the state, city councils, governor's office, county offices to lobby heavily in the House as well as in the Senate on behalf of this bill, and that was sponsored by Senator Mary Lehman in the House and Senator Pam Bidle in the Senate. And so we're particularly delighted about that, and with regard to reckless driving in the state of Maryland. More to say about that in a few minutes. In the category, the third category, pedestrian and bicycle bills, the major gain there was the Sarah Debbing Langenkamp bill, SB 315, HB 337, now calling for up to 2 months in jail, up to $2,000 fine for both for drivers striking a non-motorist in a designated bike lane. The bill is named after Sarah Debbing Langenkamp, who was killed while riding a bike lane on River Road in Bethesda. And so this all resulted from a great deal of effort by her spouse, and was sponsored by Delegate Sarah Love, major proponent for road safety in Montgomery County and, of course, in the state. And then there's much more to that bill. We don't have the time this morning for me to go into all the details of that bill. In terms of perhaps setbacks and disappointments, I think that many of you, if not all of you, heard about the near killing of Sergeant Patrick Kemp on Route 270 back in the fall of 2023. He lost both legs due to criminal reckless driving, and I was privileged to sit in one of the committee hearings at which Sergeant Kemp walked up on his crutches with 2 prosthetic legs, indicating to the committee members and all those in attendance that he intended to resume his job. And so it was very heartfelt and moving, and compels folks like me and other volunteers to not give up what we're doing here. Unfortunately, the bills associated, that Sergeant Kemp was behind, and not only him, of course, but Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller and strong lobbying from the executive mansion still failed to get these bills through. We're not experts on this. We don't know why. I know a lot happens behind the scenes, and there may be some merits or some good reasons why these bills failed, but anyway, it's very frustrating to throw all this weight into trying to make a difference to deter reckless driving in the state of Maryland, and find, within a 3-month period of time that, it's just not going to make it this year. Come back next year, So the other area that's been particularly disappointing, and I'll turn it over to Ron Weiss in a minute, but local bills related to speed camera, speed enforcement technologies seem to have a particularly difficult year. And but Ron, I'll let you kick it off with maybe a little storytelling on the frustration with Indian Head Highway Route 210.
Thank you, John. By my count, there were 12 bills in the General Assembly that had the word speed monitoring system in them, and 11 of those 12 failed. The only one that passed was the work zone bill. And and the work zone bill greatly paralleled the bill that we championed down here in Prince George's County on Route 210 to increase the $40 speed camera fine proportional to the speed of the cited driver, and also to add additional fines for repeat offenders. The repeat offender portion of the work zone camera legislation was in there till all of a sudden it was struck out, and I'm curious to find out why that happened. But we're determined to go back again next year and learn how we can get enough support from our legislators to make drivers or unconscionable speeders to to change their behavior or get them off the road one way or the other. We're focused on, because we are very low on our Prince George's County Police, who are responsible for enforcement on Route 210 here in Prince George's County, are at 80% strength. We have very little. We have some, but little, I would say, officer enforcement on 210. They do it occasionally, and have partnered with the state police on doing that, and that's effective for the day that they do it. But day to day, we're focused on automated enforcement, and we're trying to. We've changed speed camera vendor to a vendor that has state-of-the-art cameras and state-of-the-art back-end processing, and we hope to do a better job in citing speeders on 210. So we're going back next year, trying to do again for the third time to increase speed camera fines proportional to the speeds, and to add added fines for repeat offenders who are basically scofflaws. That's all I have, John. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. So I'll be able to finish up in about 5 minutes here, folks. So clearly going to aim to finish before 11:30 here. Our partner, Citizens Against Speeding in Baltimore County, also saw a failure for the second year in a row in their getting their speed monitoring bill through HB 058. And in Montgomery County here, where I live, the Intercounty Connector bill failed for the third time in a row, for the third year in a row. I will say, I'll editorialize for 30 seconds that I believe, and I'll say for the public record, if the call's being recorded, that's fine. I don't think MDTA, they call the roads that they supervise easy pass roads. I think that's what comes first for MDTA, easy pass. You get on from either end and you see the big signs that say 17 miles, 17 minutes. It doesn't say drive safe. It doesn't say obey the speed limit. It says 17 miles, 17 minutes. You do the calculation, that's 60 miles an hour, which is the speed limit, but the average speed on the road is 70 to 72. We presented this data to the Maryland General Assembly and members of ENT, and it doesn't faze them. We continue to have fatalities on the road. Motorcycle speed is out of control, and we testified in December in Rockville at the Montgomery County delegation. A good deal of representation of ENT is in this meeting, and 3.5 months later, MDTA sends a letter basically killing the bill, saying, yeah, but we just don't have the budget for the speed cameras. And my friend Ron Weiss here says, well, wait a second. He sends a letter, and I'm able to submit that to Chair Corman, saying, what about the revenues? Everyone knows they generate revenues. But the committee rolled over and died, and here we're going to have to go back and for this coming fall and next session next year, just DOA. So very frustrating. I think we would grade the overall year like a B- with A with regard to the major bills that have gone through. But ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to hear from me, but we're coming off a year where we've had now I'm told the latest is, I could be wrong about this, but some of the data is still being gathered and assessed, I think, but that we've seen in 2023 the highest number of roadway killings, deaths, and I think it's like 13 years. I think the numbers now jumped up to close to 620. And we just didn't see in the wake of last year's, bad numbers, we didn't see a corresponding sense of urgency in the Maryland General Assembly. I mean, how big does the house fire have to get before someone in Annapolis pulls the alarm and says, let's deal with this in January. Let's get these bills done. There isn't a lot of rocket science anymore to the effectiveness of speed cameras and other deterrents to bad behavior on roads. Most of the major progress results from a combination of extraordinary, breathtaking tragedies, shocking videos, or accumulation of years of dogged determination from members of the general public or coalitions of private citizens and private and public organizations. It's crushing to advocates of road safety to hear legislators in committee hearings that are being recorded criticize automated enforcement as just an additional tax or too expensive for constituents who are living on fixed income and things like that. I mean, I about fall out of my chair. So we're just often, volunteers who just want safe roads, but we're a poor match for powerful business interests, which I know, Ron, you're dealing with in Prince George's. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you all. Ending on a positive note, we'll be back. We want to work with anyone who has ideas about how we can help do a better job and do our part to advocate for safer roads in Maryland and get that number from 600 plus way down to 0. So thank you for hearing us out. And thank you for asking us to report.
Thank you guys very much for getting that recap. I know I could have got up here and did it, but you guys were down in Annapolis. I think it's important to hear what you guys listened to, what you saw, and the reactions. So the one that you talked about with the street racing exhibition, if anybody wants to look that up, that's House Bill 601. So that is the one that John had mentioned. The only other one I did want to kind of touch upon was House Bill 193. That's Anne Arundel County speed limits. That's very similar to the bill that Montgomery County put in that was authorized in 2021. So that's the same thing. They were able to get that. But yeah, there were a lot of speed bills that went in, and not as many passed as I kind of thought they would, especially with certain ones that went as far as they did. But we'll just keep an eye on it from our end, and of course the advocates and anyone who's down in Annapolis, keep plugging along. We'll see what we can do to make things safer. Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say I saw an article this morning, or a headline this morning, about New York's noise cameras and I was just looking it up, and it's happened in a few of the other cities that have tested them out. It depends on where the decibel levels are set, because it was triggering on some stock cars. Regular stock exhaust systems people get straight from the manufacturer was still triggering it even at low speed in New York City between lights or whatever. So I know there's some discussion out there about that, and that's just something to keep in mind. As John said, that bill's moving towards the governor's desk. So.
Yeah, and that's a pilot program, so correct. So we'll see how that one, right, if it has some of the same issues and whether or not.
I would love for it to work. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. All right. Well, go ahead, John.
Yeah, just one quick. I will take an opportunity to ask a question that's not on the agenda, but I'd appreciate knowledge, information from anybody on the call knowledgeable about the auto insurance company programs like State Farm's Drive Safe and Save, and USA has, I guess, Safe Driver Pilot or something like that, that track and incentivize safe driving habits and their effect on motivating drivers, and then what is the Highway Safety Office position on these programs, and I guess finally, will and can these companies individually collectively share their data? I mean, it's yes, maybe saving money, things like that, but is there a concomitant saving in lives or crashes and things like that?
I did see a webinar yesterday, and I think it's Cambridge. It's not Cambridge Systematics, like the one we're used to working with. It's Cambridge Mobility or Metro, something like that. Said they cover almost all of those programs in the country. So it could be one source of data. Then they were analyzing it, showing trends. So it could be, I'll get the name of it for you, but it could be a single data source almost.
Oh, maybe I'll email my agent because I'm enrolled through State Farm. So
I mean, the thing I think that's pretty bizarre, like I'm no barometer of everything that's going on, and not in the least, but but folks like John Becker and Ron Weiss and I, we paid a lot of attention to this, and we're a lot of social media and things like that. And it never popped up until my wife and I switched from one company to another, and they offered this. I'm like, well, where the companies aren't even marketing it to I just, there's a bunch of questions I have. It doesn't make sense. So anyway.
Yeah, I've had it for a couple of years. I had it in my 2015 and now in my 2023. So I don't even remember how I got it, but it was right. State Farm sent something out and I was like, well, sure, I'll take a discount for, driving. And then now the app, I always check the app to see, I like my highest percentage points because that means that I'm one of the safe ones out there. But yeah, maybe I'll email my agent and ask what happens with all that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, that's perfect because that just started open discussion. And I know, sorry, I'm looking at a smaller screen. Did Mike join back on, Mike Baumgartner? I know he was going to try to. Nope, I don't see him on here. He had just brought up, he called me this morning to talk about motorcyclists, particularly sport bikes, and if anybody has any thoughts on reaching them to really help slow them down. We've had a number of serious and fatal crashes, so just thoughts for the combined group. If there's anybody who has anything to help, reach out to Mike or reach out to myself and I'll connect you to Mike. Any other open discussion to the group?
Yeah, Mike can call me. I definitely have an opinion on that, Cynthia. So.
Okay, I will. I'll do a little email conversation there. Anyone else have anything open for discussion?
I've got an update on something.
You would.
I've got an update on something.
Oh, absolutely, Frank.
Just to let everybody know, this is coming, and the LELs will be hearing from me pretty soon. But as I think Cindy or somebody mentioned already, I think it was Rachel mentioned already that July is coming up, and that's the National Campaign for Speed Awareness from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And last year during July, we did an event where it incorporated regions 1, 2, 3, and 4 to conduct enforcement on the I-95 corridor during a weekend, and that went really, really well. And because of and we did a press event up in Delaware, and because of that success, we're going to do that again this July. We haven't picked a weekend yet, but it's going to coincide with the national campaign. I'm still meeting with my colleagues up in the other regions. And last year it incorporated, again, the states that had I-95 in them. And as you know, for instance, here in Region 3, 2 of our states don't have 95 going through it, West Virginia and Kentucky. Region 4, for instance, 95 doesn't go through Alabama. And those states, believe it or not, came to us and said they felt a little left out. So this year it's going to be all the states in all 4 regions. So even if you don't have an I-95, the focus is going to be, of course, at I-95. There's going to be some messaging out for that. But it's going to be speed enforcement on that weekend in all 4 regions. So all those kind of East Coast and close to the East Coast states for speed enforcement. So that's coming. Just want to let everybody know about that. And of course, when we get the dates, I'm sure Cindy will put it out there, and because we're looking for all the states to kind of not only use marketing that we provide, but their own marketing to really get the message out via social media, and then of course partner with our law enforcement agencies to conduct high visibility enforcement during that time as well. So that's coming, just to kind of let everybody know. If you see something about that, that's where that's coming from. And again, it's going to be, I'm kind of really excited about it. I was the point person last year. I'm the point person again this year, but I'm looking forward to it because we got some really good participation from all the states in all 4 regions.
Are they going to do another press event too, or is that?
If a state wants to do a press event, we encourage that, but we're not going to sponsor a press event.
Okay.
Like we did last. And last year there was a press event because a bunch of MVA administrators were all meeting up in Delaware for an annual meeting. So it was real easy. We had everybody together anyway. And that's why we had the press event last year, because we had MVA administrators all in one place. And it actually came from that. That even wasn't a NHTSA idea. The MVA folks, since they were all up there in Delaware, said they were up in Wilmington, said, hey, can we partner with you and do this? And that's kind of where it was born. And because of that success, we're going to do it again this year. But we're not, as of today, we're not hosting a press event. NHTSA isn't, except for our one for the national overall speed event. But for our operation here on the East Coast, we're not having one. But if a state, of course, wants to have a press event, we would support that in any way that we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frank. And yeah, so more information will come as I receive it. And just dug through in the chat some research on in-vehicle performance monitoring and feedback. It's a USDOT website with some information. With that, we're just a couple minutes over. Although I did shorten them from 2 hours to an hour and a half because they were going by so quickly. So maybe we're back to 2 hour with all this wonderful conversation. If there's anything that you would like to discuss as the group as a whole, please feel free to reach out to myself. I'll throw this out. I did say this at the combined EAT meeting. Mine is the only, the speed is the only one without a co-chair. So if anybody's interested, don't worry, I do most of the heavy lifting, just a little partnership. But with that, have everybody have a happy Tuesday, and hopefully I'll see a lot of faces in person Monday at our summit, which will be held at the BWI Hilton. Really excited to see this new change and have space for growth. So thank you all.